Today is National Teachers Day. That's right. I know on yesterday's show I mentioned that all week long it's Teachers Week. I believe it's National Teachers Week, but today is officially National Teachers Day. So hopefully you're like me and you have some teachers who were in your life who made a huge impact. Fingers crossed on that. Hopefully you're not one of these people who are like, no teacher ever did anything for me. I highly doubt you'd be like that anyway. But there's one thing that there is no doubt about, and that is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, gang. Yes, I am Jeff McAleer. I'm back. I'm your host here at the Daily Dope, as well as happening to be the Grand Poobah of thegaminggang.com. Do have to point out, this is like take 2 for the show today. I did the stream earlier, and I'll be damned if there wasn't something wrong with the audio. But this time it wasn't out of sync. It was actually a lot of crackling and popping, and it was just kind of like, it's like, what in the world's going on? Had no idea because, of course, as I do every day, I tested to make sure that the sound was in sync and everything was okay. But I'll tell you what I'm sure that happened is that Windows did an update while I was doing the show, and that update was messing up with the sound system, basically. Long story short, I use these like virtual cables, and every time there's an update, I have to fix these virtual cables. So let's try this again. I am actually going to be taking a first look at Remnants from Fireside Games, a game that I have been pumped to check out. And gotta be honest, well, it's kind of more like a second look, or look 1.5. Because I actually did an unboxing earlier, took the shrink wrap off, looked at everything for the first time. So I actually have a little bit more of a clue about the game. Not much, but a little bit more than from what I opened up the box, or prior to opening up the box. Anyway, I began the show by talking about how today is National Teachers Day. And I wanted to point out there is a teacher. I had quite a few teachers that I had throughout my life that were really cool, and I learned quite a few things from. And there was one I had, it was my freshman year at Lane Tech. So Lane Technical High School in Chicago. And his name was Mr. Mulvey. And he had glasses, a beard. He was a younger guy. He was probably in his 30s. And one of the things he taught me was that you don't need 8 hours of sleep to survive every day. And interestingly enough, I found that to be true. I actually get about 6 hours of sleep a day. And I've heard over the years, and there have been studies that show the more sleep you have, the shorter your lifespan is. Pretty bizarre. But he really taught me an appreciation for the English language as well as reading. I was always a huge reader, though. Always a really big reader. And yes, I'm kind of one of those grammar police out there. I know. I try to keep that to a minimum, but I see bad grammar, it does irk me. But something else I always thought was interesting was he was a teacher who didn't mince any words, and he didn't talk down to us because we were kids. Yeah, I figured I was 13 when I first started freshman year in high school. And it was always shot straight with us, and I'll never forget, he told the class that if the Chicago school system had another strike, he would give up teaching because he was so tired of all the different strikes, things like that. Sure enough, my sophomore year of high school, Chicago teachers go out on strike, and I'll be damned, Mr. Mulvey stuck to his guns. He did not come back to Lane Tech, which actually is kind of sad because kids that followed me at Lane Tech really missed out. He was an excellent teacher. Anyway, I've got a big show today. Got a lot of news. We are going to delve into Remnants from Fireside Games. I have a little item from the mailbag that I thought was kind of funny that I'm going to point out. But before I jump into everything, I did want to mention I got a message from one of the designers for Barbarian Battlegrounds. And I believe it's Walter Barber. He's one of the two designers. And when I did the unboxing of Barbarian Battlegrounds last Friday, I had mentioned that I thought that the game was a prototype. It was not the finished product yet. And there were some cards in there that were blank. And I was like, I'm not sure. What are these cards supposed to be for? And yes, it's true that it is a prototype that I took a look at. So I kind of knew that. And those extra cards were just in there. They're not actually part of the finished game. Although the funny thing is, it was confirmed that my guess on the MSRP for the game was correct. I mean, on the money correct. $24.95. Huh. Yeah, usually I can see a game and I get a pretty good idea of what the MSRP will be based on the company. Sometimes I'm way off. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, it looks like about $40. And then I hear down the line, it's like, oh, it's $75. I'm like, what? But no, Barbarian Battlegrounds will carry an MSRP of $24.95. It's on the horizon. It's not out yet. If I remember correctly, I believe it's coming out in July. All right, moving right along. Got plenty of news today. So first off, if you're a fan of Terraforming Mars, you better hold on to your hats because Stronghold Games has a new expansion which is coming in August. And I've got the dope on Prelude. As the mega corporations are getting ready to start the terraforming process, you now have the chance to make those early choices that will come to define your corporation and set the course for the future history of Mars. This is the prelude to your greatest endeavors. In Terraforming Mars Prelude, you get to choose from prelude cards that jumpstart the terraforming process or boost your corporation engine. There are also 5 new corporations and 7 project cards that thematically fit the early stages of terraforming. Prelude is obviously enough an expansion to Terraforming Mars and can be combined with any other Terraforming Mars expansion or variant. This new expansion was designed by Terraforming Mars creator Jacob Frixilius. I think that's how you pronounce the last name, Frixilius. It does include 47 cards. Of course, as an expansion, it does require a copy of the base game to play and is fully compatible with all other expansions, including Venus Next. Prelude will carry an MSRP of $19.99 and does have a tentative release date of August 22nd. I should mention that the images, most of the images that you're seeing right now are not actually from the English language edition from Stronghold Games, except for the final, coming soon kind of splash. And the reason is, I actually couldn't find any good, big, sharp images for the upcoming English language edition of the expansion. So we've got like the French box. It looks like some of the cards are in Polish. Hey, trust me, I'm not great at English, so I can't even tell you right off the bat what language some things might be, but it does kind of look like it might be Polish. Anyhow, I am a huge fan of Terraforming Mars, and most of the gang likes it too, but it's a little heavier than some of the younger gamers in the gang can handle, because they're still fairly new to a lot of this stuff, a lot of the mechanics and things like that. With board games, a little green, a little wet behind the ears still. So I play this actually quite a bit solo, and I think it's an awesome game. I love it. So I'm excited. I haven't played any of the other expansions. I've only played the core game, but it's always cool to see new stuff coming for Terraforming Mars. All right, there is a game of acquisitions and influence which is set in the ancient world, and it's scheduled to arrive from Capstone Games, a company I'm not overly familiar with. It is coming this July, and I've got the dope on Carthago, or Carthago? I'm going to say it's Carthago. All right, Pinky, be quiet now. So, as I mentioned, this is like the second stream today, and the kitties are downstairs with me today. So, of course, it's Pinky and Smokey as always. Sometimes they're upstairs. Usually, if nobody else is around, I like to keep them by me because Pinky can get into trouble. And through the first show, didn't hear a peep. She was perfect, quiet as a mouse. Now I can see she's complaining. Like usual. She's a good cat, but I think, honestly, I say it all the time, I think she thinks I'm talking to her. Anyway, about Cathargo, or Cathago. Carthage, about 800 years BC. Wouldn't that be 800 BC? Founded as a humble trading post by the Phoenicians, and I'm not talking about people who live in Phoenix, Arizona, the city quickly grew into an important trade hub where precious goods from around the ancient world were traded. In Carthago, players represent merchants who attempt to increase their wealth and influence while improving their status within the Merchants Guild. Become the greatest merchant in Carthage by loading valuable wares, financing expeditions, and exerting influence in clever ways. An extraordinary card-driven game of tactics that demands making the right decisions at the right time. Discover and trade valuable goods to acquire special abilities. Gain influence by trading goods. Use your influence to battle enemies, secure more seats in the Merchants Guild, or unlock special achievements. Multi-use cards provide players various ways to improve their status within the Merchants Guild. Game's components are language independent as well. Carthago, once again, taking a guess, is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in around 60 to 90 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $40 when it arrives in July. So I have to point out that I believe this game was already out through another company, and it's very possible it was a foreign language company. And this new edition is from Capstone Games, and I got to admit, the components look pretty interesting, the punch boards and everything, and it looks kind of cool the way they have, you know, one of the punch boards laid out, and the cards are kind of at an angle. Now, I don't know if that's for individual players or if that's kind of a marketplace for buying the cards, but this seems kind of interesting. And I gotta be honest, I'm a sucker for games set in the ancient world because I'm kind of up on the history. I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, an expert, but I really dig the ancient world, and I find it kind of funny that people these days think that someone who was living in ancient Greece or ancient Rome or, you know, who knows, Sparta, any place in the Sumeria, you know, any of these places during, you know, before Christ, people think that, you know, they were primitives or something like that. And the really interesting thing is that those people were not that much different than we are, except for the fact that they did not have the same technological advances as we get to enjoy today. So anyhow, this does look like a pretty interesting game. Now, IDW Games, actually I'm going to take a sip because it's kind of dry down here again today. Although it's a little humid outside. Yes, the weather has improved greatly in the Chicago area. We're around 80 degrees today. Anyway, I was going to say IDW Games has announced a pretty cool game on the horizon, and it is Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege. It's going to be arriving in August, and I've got the dope. Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege is a game for 1 to 5 players who take on the role of the Caped Crusader and his allies as they protect Gotham from the full range of Batman's rogues gallery. Designed by Richard Lanius, and he needs absolutely no introduction to gamers out there, who is known for creating thematic and challenging tabletop games, and co-designed by Michael Guglielmo? I think that's it. Giuliano? Sorry, Michael. Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege puts players in the role of Gotham's heroes as they use dice allocation and threat management to defend the city against henchmen and bosses and fight to save the city from being destroyed. This game features all new artwork, character miniatures, 3D city buildings, and other board game elements. Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege captures the action and adventures of the animated series right on the tabletop. Subsequent releases in the series will capture and celebrate the Batman animated universe, packed with heroes and villains, featuring them in settings new and still familiar to fans and gamers. Developed with renowned artists and designers, IDW Games is excited to bring these beloved characters to the tabletop for fans of Batman the Animated Series to enjoy for years to come. As I did mention, Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege will be available in August, and there will be a preview at the Origins Game Fair as well. There's no word yet on MSRP or age range or how long it'll take to play. I'm taking a stab because it does have miniatures, it's got 3D buildings. We're probably looking somewhere between $80 and $90 for this game. And I'm kind of basing that as well because of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that IDW does, which also has minis. So I am taking a stab that it's probably going to be a little on the higher end. Although, I got to admit, these minis look pretty cool, and this does seem like this is a series that IDW Games is making a pretty big commitment to. So I'll be interested in checking this out in more detail at Origins. Okay, so moving on to my next piece. I've got actually 2 Kickstarter news pieces today, and I found both of them pretty interesting. Usually I try not to do too much Kickstarter news. Sometimes I try to avoid it completely, but I had to point out that Sparkworks Games has an interesting looking Kickstarter which is out there. It looks like it's family friendly, but it does say it's for 14 and up, and I'm taking a guess it might be because of components. But anyway, I've got the dope about Penny Lane. It's a worker placement game for 2 to 4 players in which players compete to build the most prosperous city avenue. You can build residences, shops like the Confectioners, and attractions like the, you guessed it, Penny Arcade. You'll also need to employ citizens to generate income for your lane. Yes, because businesses usually do need employees. Penny Lane also has a tableau building component where players can get bonus points or currency by aligning their buildings with different links. Each round consists of an action phase followed by an upkeep phase. In the action phase, a player can either select a Main Street action or pass. The action phase repeats until each player has passed. To take a Main Street action, a player must choose from the communal Main Street cards and place the required number of pennies on the open action space. The player then carries out the effect of that card. Possible actions include purchasing a building, placing a worker, rearranging buildings, or claiming the Mayor Meeple to become the new first player. Each player places purchased buildings in their lane. If they're able to connect a penny link, they get an extra penny at the end of each upkeep phase. If they're able to connect a victory point link, they get an extra victory point at the end of the game. In the upkeep phase, all players gain 1 penny. Players then resolve all effects in their lane as indicated by the upkeep symbol and their penny links. The final round is triggered when one player has 10 or more points on their lane, and the player with the most victory points wins. There is a short video for Penny Lane, so to get a better look at the game, let's kick back and take a peek. Should we cue the Beatles music, anyone? Penny Lane is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter, and you can score a copy of the base game at the $22 pledge level, or the deluxe edition plus the Easy Street expansion for a $29 pledge. The project does run through May 24th, and the estimated delivery date is March of next year. Do want to point out, right now, Penny Lane is about the halfway point. I think it's just beyond the halfway point to its funding goal. I honestly don't know when the project started. It may have just started today, but this looks pretty fun. This looks pretty cool. And as I mentioned, it's supposedly for ages 14 and up. I believe it's for 2 to 4 players, and it does play in about 30 to 60 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that is the indication that I recall. But it says ages 14 and up. Nothing looks like it would be that like heavy mental, lifting for, or mental heavy lifting, I should say, for gamers out there. So obviously the 14 and up is probably due to some small components. All right, so I mentioned I've got 2 Kickstarters today, and the next one is from Studio 2 Publishing, and they have their first supplement for the Awaken RPG, and it looks pretty cool. I have to admit, the artwork for this series looks really sweet. And I've got the dope on the Blood of Salvora. After the original Awaken core rulebook, we are very proud to show you the next step in the world of Awaken, the Blood of Salvora. The purpose of this Kickstarter project is to print and release the book, which will expand and deepen the game setting of Awaken. The world of Awaken is full of constant strife and discord. It's a world where the great cities fight for supremacy and leadership over the Alliance, a loose political association holding the territories of Salvora United. A world where ancient powers have resurfaced in the form of Vasili, humans that have undergone a physical change that has blessed and cursed them with mythical gifts, powers that were not meant for humans to have. And with the world of Awaken still trying to recuperate from the fight with the Vargans, an ancient nemesis of all humankind, it is obvious that something in the world of Awaken is determined to test the survival instinct of all humankind. But Awaken is not just a world filled with endless battles, but a world that is filled with exploration and several places that are just waiting to be discovered by the players. Studio 2 does have a short video for the Blood of Salvora, so let's kick back and watch.
We hoped for a better world, for better times, but we were wrong. The skies are still silent, our prayers in vain. There is a noticeable dread in the air, and alliance is more volatile than ever. Tribunals have been warring with each other, and most of the cities closed its gates. Whispers emerged that all-out war is unstoppable. Official trade routes became unwelcome and treacherous. Wilderness has been overrun by corrupted beasts. People feel alienated and isolated. Some have turned towards strange magic. Others towards violence, which became almost impossible to avoid. Darkness is consuming us all and spitting out horrors. What will the future bring to the land, to the nation, and to the people, as they are the Blood of Salvora?
Hello guys, this is Alton from the Games Collective, and we're back on Kickstarter once again. First of all, thank you all for your incredible amount of support and love in the first campaign, because with your help we managed to raise the funds to release the Awakened core rulebook. And now we're back for the second chapter of Awakened story, called The Blood of Salvora. This book is a campaign setting source book, and that means that inside you'll find plenty of new information for your game of Awaken, such as cities and places to visit, creatures and monsters to hunt and encounter, gifts and powers to unleash upon the world, and many more. In addition to the book, in this campaign you'll be offered plenty of new rewards, such as dice, t-shirts, gaming screens, maps, and big, high-quality collectible resin figure, and you can check out the details below. So, if you like what you see, please support us by backing and sharing the campaign, and let's release this together.
As I mentioned, that does look pretty cool. Awaken the Blood of Salvora is about, well, at least earlier this morning, it was about a third of its way to its funding goal. And you can reserve a copy of the supplement, as well as extra goodies, such as a quick start rulebook at a $19 pledge level. The core book, if you've never gotten that before, is also available at the same pledge level with some goodies. Or you can score the set of 2 for $35, keeping in mind I'm talking about in PDF. Additional pledge levels are available for physical products as well. The project runs through June 3rd with an expected delivery date of May of next year, which I'm a little surprised. That seems kind of far out. And I do believe the May 2019 estimated delivery is for the PDFs too, so we're not talking about the physical books. That said, this looks pretty impressive. This looks pretty cool. Now, I believe Awaken has been out for a little bit, maybe about a year. I'm not overly familiar with the game itself. I do know that it's kind of based on, I want to say, Slovakian mythology and folklore, which is different. I mean, usually when we see games based on European folklore, it's usually Germanic, kind of along those lines, English, maybe French, but very rarely do we run across things from, like, say, like Czech Republic and things like that. So this makes this pretty unique, and I have to say, the artwork's very, very impressive. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good system, but I do have to say, usually lousy RPGs don't usually have really spectacular artwork. It does happen. I don't want anybody emailing me saying, hey Jeff, but what about blah, blah, blah? Usually good artwork comes with a pretty good game. I do understand this is kind of a rules light system as well. Anyway, let's continue talking about role-playing games, because folks out there know I'm a fan. So I do want to point out, I'm always looking for ways to save you money on role-playing games too. And Bundle of Holding always helps me out, because yes, they've got a Paranoia bundle. Oh yeah, that's right. And I've got the dope. Citizen, your friend the computer, has authorized the recloning of our March 2016 Paranoia Classic Bundle, a combination-worthy revival featuring the first, 1984, and second, 1987, editions from West End Games, the satirical science fiction tabletop role-playing game of a darkly humorous future. Previously available only in pirated versions of varying quality. Kind of funny that they actually come right out and say that. These DRM-free, non-watermarked image scans created for this offers original run, Jeff. And approved by the game's original designers are the books that made Paranoia great. This collection includes some of, actually most of, the funniest writing in the history of role-playing. For just $17.95, you get all 6 titles in the Red Clearance Collection as DRM-free PDFs. You get Paranoia First Edition, the original 3-book set, including the complete player, game master, and adventure handbooks about troubleshooters in a future underground city in service to an insane computer. There's the Game Master Screen and Adventures for First Edition. You also get Orc Busters, Ken Roston's much-loved 1986 send-up of fantasy RPGs. You'll also get Clones in Space. I don't know, for some strange reason, anytime I run across something that says in space, I always just want to say, in space. Vapors Don't Shoot Back is also included. It's the first full-length Paranoia mission. Plus, you'll get a form pack, which I think those were character archetypes? Maybe. Anyway, if you pay more than the threshold price of $26.79, you'll rise in clearance and also get the entire Ultraviolet Clearance Collection with 8 more titles worth an additional $45. There's the Paranoia 2nd Edition from 1987, Acute Paranoia, the 1st edition rules supplement with longtime fans' best-loved adventure, Me and My Shadow, Mark IV, the Yellow Clearance Black Box Blues, say that 5 times fast. There's also Send in the Clones, Hill Sector Blues, The People's Glorious Revolutionary Adventure, Alpha Complexities, the Accessory Pack, as in EX, not ACC, the 2nd edition GM Screen Plus Forms, a character sheet, and cardstock commies. Your friend the computer has instructed its loyal servants in central processing to assign 10% of your payment after gateway fees to the charity selected by famed game designer Alan Varney, Human Rights Watch. You've got 13 days to score plenty of RPG goodness, citizen, so don't wait. Gotta say, I had Paranoia back in the day. I had 1st edition Paranoia, and I had lots of West End game stuff because they made such great games. I did not have Torg, strangely enough, which I'm super happy that Ulysses North America has re-released Torg, and they've sent me all the stuff that's out right now because I'm having a blast in my downtime reading through it and plotting how I'm gonna run it. Even though I have spent decades running Call of Cthulhu with the gang, I want to do so. I want to do this and just make it so over the top. And Torg is really over the top, and so is Paranoia. If you're not familiar with Paranoia, Paranoia is sort of like 1984, as in the book 1984 meets Looney Tunes. It is that wacky. Now, I do want to mention that even though I owned Paranoia and I had some of the supplements and adventures and stuff that came out, I don't recall running it. I may have run it once. And I think part of it was because my group back then, when we were doing role-playing games and stuff, we were always more like campaign gamers. And yes, you can do campaigns with Paranoia, but the kill rate of characters in Paranoia makes Call of Cthulhu look like a walk through the park. So characters get killed off a lot, but you have clones of your characters. So I don't know. For some strange reason, I don't know. Maybe I just felt it was tough for me to pull off the sense of humor, the comedy in it. I don't know, but I always enjoyed reading the adventures and stuff like that. So pretty cool bundle of holding. And you can get plenty of Paranoia goodness for a small price. All right, so that is it for the news today. So before I jump into my look at Remnants, my second look today at Remnants, did want to jump into the mailbag. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, just want to say hello, what have you, you can always reach me at mailbag@thegaminggang.com. So I got this email from Jamie in Riverside, California, asking me if, when I'm doing the show, am I like newscasters and don't wear pants? So I thought, okay, that's kind of funny because no matter what I'm wearing, and even like in the wintertime when I first started the show, right? I did some preview shows in the end of December, but the show officially launched on, first Monday after New Year's. Why am I having a hard time coming up with New Year's? First day of January, dummy. But I would, have like sweaters on or sweatshirts, stuff like that. And usually I'm not wearing like jeans when I'm bumming around in the house and stuff like that. So funny enough, I would be wearing like sweatpants. And of course, if you looked at what I was wearing and sweatpants, it would look ridiculous. So actually today it is warmer in the Chicago area and a little bit humid. So I've actually been wearing, which I do on occasion, I'm wearing swim trunks. So I have swim trunks on, which is kind of funny. But I tend to wear swim trunks kind of like as shorts because they're like, I have the longer swim trunks that go like just past your knee or just to your knee. I'm not wearing Speedos. That'd be just horrifying to see and to experience, I think. But so a lot of times I'll wear, kind of swim trunks just because they're so much cooler and airier when things get warm and humid here in the Chicago area. So I had to laugh because it's sort of like, well, no, I'm actually not wearing pants. So anyway, all right, moving right along. So if you're curious about what's cooking on the rest of the week here on the Daily Dope, I also even have something that's going to be on Monday's show already. So tomorrow for Wednesday, and yes, Wednesdays are usually War Game Wednesdays, but I haven't received anything new as far as War Games, and I haven't had a chance to play anything to get reviews done as far as War Games go. So I am going to actually unbox and take a first look at Helios Expanse from Greenbrier Games. It is a 4X science fiction game, and it plays in about an hour. And I know a lot of war gamers are also really big into 4X games. I know I am. So I think we're going to get a nice peek at this tomorrow and check that out. So I'm looking forward to that. Then on Thursdays mean RPGs. So I am going to review the core rules for The Dark Eye in English from Ulysses North America. Originally, I was going to do a review for one of the adventure books for Torg, but I've actually been getting some emails to the mailbag, and people have been like, hey, when are you going to do that Dark Eye review? Because Ulysses North America sent me this huge box of stuff that I showed off on one of the shows recently, and a lot of people are like, hey, I really want to find out about the Dark Eye. So I will be reviewing this on Thursday. I will give you a hint. There's a lot of interesting stuff to it. Kind of some odd stuff too. I'm not saying bad, just different. And I will discuss that. Then we're kind of doing a Dark Eye theme, or I should say the Dark Eye theme, towards the end of the week, because on Friday, I will unbox and take a look at Aventuria, the adventure card game, which is set in the world of the Dark Eye. And Drew Barbier, who is a viewer of the Daily Dope, chimes in quite a bit on chat when he's watching, says, this is an excellent game. I have heard some really good stuff about this game as well. Then on Monday, strangely enough, this just showed up today in the mail after I was waiting for the first stream to render a little bit so I could check it out. And then I learned the sound was all messed up. Renegade from Victory Point Games showed up, and this is a like cyberpunkish card game for 1 to 5 players. So on Monday we're going to be taking a look at this, and probably most of next week after that, I'm going to try to get some more reviews out there. It's weird how the reviews kind of come in like bunches. So I know I did a few reviews in a row, so we should be okay. It's not as if weeks have gone by since I did a review. It's just days have gone by since I did a review. So, all right. Many of you are tuning in because you want to get a look at Remnants from Fireside Games. It is designed by Justin DeWitt, Matthew O'Malley, and Ben Rosette. Could be Rosé. Don't know. It's not spelled like the wine. So I think it's Rosette. The art is provided by John Arisa. It's Ariosa. Yeah, I'm going to butcher up these names of the artists. And Victor Perez Corbella and Matuz Wilma. Hopefully I'm not mispronouncing those too badly. Remnants is for 2 to 4 players, ages 13 and up, and plays in around 45 to 60 minutes. Remnants is not available yet. It will arrive in stores on June 27th. It does carry an MSRP of $39.95. All right, so let's slip on over to the other camera here. And as I mentioned earlier today, I actually unboxed this and took all this stuff out. So of course I'm kind of rehashing things I can't be as surprised. I'm not going to pretend to be surprised as I actually was when I first opened this up earlier. But I do want to point out that my nephew Cameron, I am excited for this game. I always look forward to games coming from Fireside Games. And not only do they make really good games, they're some of the nice folks in the entire industry. Justin and Anne-Marie DeWitt are really, really cool folks. As well as other people that I've met who work for Fireside that I just don't recall their names off the top of my head. Anyway, so my nephew Cameron was really pumped when I told him, hey, you know, I got a new game from that company that does Hot Shots, because he loves Hot Shots. I really enjoy it too, don't get me wrong. And Hot Shots is one of the games that kind of has to stay in my car, because there are times when I've got some of the gang together, we're going to play some games, and we're 99% of the time at my brother's house, my brother and my sister-in-law's house. And most of the time, the gang there are friends of Cameron, my nephew. So they're all high school kids, things like that. And there are some games that I have to keep in the car, because there are times when I've got games to review that may not necessarily be jumping out at them that they want to check out. A lot of times it turns out they're awesome games, right? But they just don't kind of click, oh, like, wow, I really want to check that game out. So I have to kind of, I don't know, tempt them with other games that they really dig. So I'll say, all right, so yeah, if we play XYZ game, then, you know, we'll play a game of Clank. Or if we play this game and that game, okay, we'll bust out Hot Shots. So as soon as I mentioned to Cameron, yeah, the folks who made Hot Shots got a new game coming out. He's like, oh yeah. Then I told him it's kind of a Mad Max post-apocalyptic theme. He's like, oh yeah. So with Remnants, scavenge for resources, develop your compound, fight the raiders. That is some pretty cool artwork. I like the artwork on the front of the box. I do think it's a little interesting too that there are 2 co-designers to the game as well. Usually most of Justin DeWitt's games are either he's a solo designer or Anne-Marie is credited as well. So this is a little different, a little bit different as far as who worked on this game. So it says, the world has ended. Our days are dust and sand. We built what we need to survive from the remnants of the old world. Remnants takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. Each player builds a compound and fights to survive. Raiders and mutant creatures. To survive raiders and mutant creatures. Send survivors from the Badlands. Oh, geez, for crying out loud, Jeff. Look at the box. Look at the box. Read the words on the box. Not what do you think you remember the words on the box say. Send survivors into the Badlands. And no, we're not talking about the AMC television series. You mean there's some over-the-top karate action in this? To roll dice in a real-time race for resources and then take turns spending those resources to buy weapons, defense, and special development cards. When threats attack, roll dice and use abilities from cards you purchase to stay alive and fend off the assault. Sweet. So as far as I understand, there is no player versus player element to Remnants. That's not to say that that might not be in the future. But I believe all the players are pretty much just doing what they can to survive themselves. And I don't think you actually battle against the other players. So we've got the rulebook here. And there is a quick start on the back to kind of jump right on in. And it does look like this takes up a bit of space on the table, especially if you've got 4 players all involved in the game. So we've got an overview of the game. We've got the objective of the game, and the objective is to be the player with the most victory points at the end of the game. Got an area here talking about components. We got the game set up, and as with all Fireside Games, there is pretty elaborate page discussing how to set the game up. Because some companies, it just has, a little... Sometimes a company will just throw like a picture of, hey, this is how things are supposed to look. And they're kind of like, yeah, but I don't necessarily know what that is. What are those cards? What do those cards do? I have no idea. So usually Fireside's got a pretty detailed game setup. We've got the how to play basics. Then we've got play details. So there's a scavenge phase where you commit scavengers and looters. Shoot the looters! No, don't shoot your own looters though. Then you got specialists. It says you'll flip the top Badlands card and resolve it. There's a dread track. Got roll for scavenging, getting bonus tokens, rolling for looting, burying leftover resources. Interesting. Then we've got a build phase, because once again, you are trying to improve your compound. Then we've got ending the phase development cards, which I believe the development cards are pretty much explaining, okay, so this is what we've built in the compound. Then there's a fight phase. There's bosses, so you'll have a boss fight. Injuries, a heal phase. Cleanup phase. Then ending the game. Then it talks about how to score the game. Talking about some tokens and card details. Talking about each of the development cards, weapons cards, defense cards. Dread card effects. Boss power-ups, and then some alternate rules. Another thing I always like about Fireside Games is they'll actually go through and say, okay, even though you see on a card, hey, this is what that is, even in like Hot Shots went through and explained what all the tokens were, what the different cards represent, stuff like that. Very, very cool. Very, very helpful. So, all together, we've got 12 pages of rules, but a lot of the space is taken up by images. So, nice. Very nice. Then, we've got some different colored cubes. So, we've got gray, black, red, brown. We've got 16 custom dice. So, that would lead me to believe, because I'm pretty sure everybody's rolling dice at the same time, leads me to believe that everybody's going to have their own allocation of dice that they're going to be rolling, that they're going to have. They may start off with so many and be able to add more, but that's why I believe we've got all of these dice. Now, these dice are a little bit smaller, and these dice seem to me, now it's been a long, long time since I played. Actually played it a little bit at, I want to say it was Origins, but the dice rolling game Bears that Fireside did quite a while ago. It's a few years old. So these are a little bit smaller. So, but they are cut. So this is a cut surface. So these aren't stickers. So it looks like we've got a board here, probably for scavenging. Got a star here. I have no idea what that represents. This is weird. This almost looks like this is like an arm with the hand balled into a fist, but I don't know. Then we've got this. Almost looks kind of like a grate. Some sort of a grate. Not a clue whatsoever what this icon means. And this almost looks like a blood spatter here. I think that might be what it is. It might be blood spatter. So, and now, of course, some of these sides are used for scavenging. Some of them are for fighting. So, but pretty cool that you got 16 dice. Nicely done. Pretty sweet. All right, so then we've got different cards. So I am going to put these cards off to the side for a sec. Then we've got the player boards. So these are each of your compounds, and each of the compounds has a name up here. So I do see that they were all different. They also have a little bit of a different starting setup. So this says start with 4 survivors and 1 rummager. That's for New Eden. Then we got Sanctuary says start with 6 survivors. Freetown Freetown! Oh, I'm sorry, that's Freedom. Whoops. Freetown has 4 survivors and a scrounger. And then Asheville has 4 survivors and a hauler. Now, one of the cool things here, too, is on each of these player boards, you've got the order of play. And this is cut out a bit like if you've ever played Evolution from North Star Games. So, now nope, didn't think so. Didn't think that you would put die in there. But I can guarantee you these cubes go in. So I would think red, brown, and gray. So, for an example, something like that. It's a guess. I'm not positive. I'm just taking a stab in the dark here. So we've got the 4 different player boards for each of the compounds. Then we've got a cool board here, a play board, and at the top here, that is the Dread track. I saw that in the rules there. Then we open this up, and this will take a little bit of space. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, get that in. You can tell this is going to take a little bit of space on your table. Not a ton, but a bit, because you're going to have this set up, and then depending on how many players, everybody's going to have, you know, their player boards there. Then they're going to have different cards as well. That I would take a guess you're probably putting the cards down here. Looks like you might put like a bonus token here, resources here. So you're probably going to need a little bit of space. Not a ton, just a little bit. But this is the buried area, because we saw that when you're out there scavenging, you can bury extra resources. Then it looks like we've got plastic, rope, metal, wood, and cloth. Then we've got bonus tokens here. So we've got a bonus 2, bonus 3, bonus 4. And it's pretty cool, because here's like, this is a desert. It almost looks like pieces from like aircraft wreckage or something. Might be. But it's kind of cool, because up on top, we've got these, you know, just obliterated buildings, these ruins of buildings. So I thought that's kind of cool. So we've got that. Then we've got various different counters here. And I saw this is the first player counter. These are bonus counters. Now, once again, I have absolutely no clue. But when I flipped it over, it said bonus. So right there, I know those are bonus counters. I don't know what these represent. I don't know if those are bullets. They almost look like kind of like sandbags. They could be victory points. But I did notice that the same symbol is on the development cards. So I'm not sure what that is. Then we've got these tokens here. I still can't really make out what this green thing is supposed to be. Oh, you know what? I bet you it's plastic. I think this is a crashed. There we go. Now we're starting to figure this out. Okay, so that's a crushed plastic bottle. That's rope. That is wood. This is, what's the other one here? Plastic, rope, wood, metal. Okay, so that's metal. So that's what that represents. So these are your resources. Okay, cool. Now I know. And then I'm thinking, no, that must be cloth. So that's what these dice represent, cloth. The red here. And then, of course, there's a star. Maybe the star is for combat. I don't know. Then, this is one of the survivors there. I believe that is a specialist. I think that's a specialist there. Of course, these are dual-sided. And on the back of the survivors, looks like there's like a splash of blood and bandaged hand. So I'm taking a guess that's probably a wounded side. So you can probably have, you know, fully healthy and then wounded. And it's possible that once they've taken a second wound, they're removed. But here it looks like these are just regular survivors, probably. because they all kind of have the same artwork. Just a little bit different. There's just two different kinds, right? Yep. Two different styles of Survivor. It looks like one's male, the other's female. And then down here, I think these are going to be your specialists. As I mentioned, we flip it over, and it looks like that's the survivors in their wounded state. So we've got that. And then we've got cards. So we've got a survivor and a training card, and it appears that they're identical on each side. So I do not know what you do with that. Then this just says survivor. Just says survivor, and then each of these cards have the resources down at the bottom. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Then we got Badlands cards. And you will choose a Badlands card and resolve it. I am not going to show off all of them because I don't want to ruin some of the surprises of playing the game. Take a look at one for an example. Heat Wave. That says, that looks like you would wound 3 different scavengers. So when you're sending these survivors out to scavenge, you're going to see what's going on in the Badlands. Now, there aren't a ton of Badlands cards. So I don't know if I would take a guess that the Badlands card is going to affect all the players. Then we got Dread card, and there's 2 levels of Dread. And this is what looks like, this is where some of the mutant creatures might come into play. So we've got, here we go, Sand Bats. So it looks like that's the health. See the little heart there? Looks like that might be the health of the Sand Bats. It says, before fight, all players lose 2 L. Don't know what the L would mean. And then, looks like if you'd feed them +1 medicine. I don't know. Have to find out. Cool. I know sometimes some people will comment on the unboxing videos and they're like, yeah, well, you know, you say I don't know a lot. It's like, well, but the thing is, I don't know. I have no idea. It's an unboxing, right? I did take the shrink wrap off in the earlier video, but after that, I didn't sit down and start reading the rules. So a lot of this is still kind of, you know, wow, hey, cool. So we got Plague Wolves. So we got a few of these Dread cards. We've got, looks like we got 3 big bosses to do battle with. Where'd the other big boss card go? Is it mixed in? Did it get, there's the power-up cards. There's development. Oh, look, see, there's more Badlands cards. Cards got a little mixed up. There's the other boss. So we've got King Colossal, who almost looks a little bit like the big bad from the Road Warrior. Was it Humongous? I can't remember. For some reason, I think it was Humongous was the character's Lord Humongous. So yeah, oh, yes, yes. They've got the Duke in New York. So we got the Duke, and then we've got the toughest of them all, it looks like, Scream Queen. So you got 3 bosses, and I'm taking a guess you might only be dealing with 1 boss in a game, kind of give a little bit of variety to it. Then the bosses also have power-up cards, and there's 2 levels of those I saw. Oh no, I'm sorry, 3 levels. So we've got 2 level 3, 2 level 2, and 2 level 1. So I'm not positive if, you know, it's possible you take 1 of each level for the boss, or maybe if the bosses are involved in a lot of the gameplay, they kind of keep leveling up a little bit and get these power-up cards. I don't know. And then we've got the development cards. which also have 3 different levels. So we got level 1, level 2, and level 3. And it appears these development cards are just pretty much like level 1 is, you know, kind of junk, things like that. Now, I wonder if you actually use, so for an example, we've got one of those big wooden spools that cables will come on. I would take a guess that you might be able to like cash these in to be able to use for higher level developments. Anything's possible. So, but as I mentioned, there's that little icon right there that I wasn't so sure about. I was kind of like, is that a bullet? Is it a sandbag? Maybe that's like I said, maybe that's like a victory point indicator. So kind of give you an idea maybe of level 2 here. So we got a stockpile. Then if you look, it'll tell you, okay, so what's the special thing that this development does? What does this card do for you? It says gain 1 victory point each time you exceed the limit for one type of L. I don't know if that's maybe L's a specialist, because I think that's what we see on the counters. And there's development 3. Let's see what we got here. A lookout tower. This has got to be the stuff that you got to be able to use to build this. And it says you may redistribute your scavengers and looters after the Badlands card is revealed. Pretty cool. Pretty nice. Got that lookout tower there. So we've got the development cards. We've got the dread level cards. Got the Badlands cards. The boss power-up cards, as well as the 3 bosses. Just kind of start putting some of this back. We've got the cool-looking desert board here. We've got 2.5 sheets of counters. We've got the training and survivor cards. Those right on top. We got the 16 custom dice, which are very cool custom dice. One thing I noticed, Fireside Games doesn't do cheapo dice. They really don't. You know, sometimes you'll get a game where they just paint the whatever the image might be, the custom image on a die side. Nope. Fireside Games always has the cut dice. So we also have the 4 player boards for the compounds. We've got the cubes of various colors. So it looks like, yep, each one, there's 4 of these and then a black one. So I'm guessing the black one is the dread track. And then the red, brown, and gray, each of the players get 1 to mark these areas here. So we've got heal. I wonder if this is sort of along the lines of kind of like the, now I don't want to say like technology level, but kind of like that. Like how good are they at? Because it looks like this is healing, this is repairing. I'm not sure. I can't really tell what that's supposed to be down at the bottom. Maybe that's for fighting. I don't know. So we've got that. Then we've got the various decks of cards. And the 12-page rule book. And that is what we find when we take everything outside the box from Remnants, from Fireside Games. And I have got to say, I am really looking forward to playing Remnants. Because as I said, I'm a fan of Fireside Games. I like post-apocalyptic stuff. Probably would have been cool if the players could fight each other, but then again, Fireside Games tries to go a little, like, family-friendlier, as opposed to just, you know, oh yeah, so, you're these post-apocalyptic survivors killing each other. Well, but the bad guys, those raiders and those mutant creatures, yeah, lay the stomp on them. Anyway, as I mentioned before, Remnants is not in stores yet. It will not be available until June 27th, and it will carry an MSRP of $39.95. I should get this to the table this weekend, and I would say you can expect a review of Remnants sometime next week. All right, so that is it for today's show. As I mentioned, tomorrow I will be doing an unboxing and a first look at Helios Expanse from Greenbrier Games, and looks pretty cool. I've heard some good stuff about that. But when you are not watching The Daily Dope, be sure to go visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I'll be back tomorrow. So until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And as always, thank you so much for watching.